Hello, this is Kim Malinowski. I'm reading really for the Terra Nova Lucia. But whoever gets this, I do have my own channel. Hello. Um, this is timeless for everyone else. And for the TNL group, um, I'm filming this on August 2nd, right after Llamas. So it'll be like the week after, you know, I'll be on two archaeology digs. I don't know why I decided to do two in 1 week. Clearly boredom. Who knows? I wanted to make note of something. I have been watching. I made sure I could pull it up on my phone so that I would get it correct. Been watching Divine Empress Tarot 333, and she primarily does love readings. So I watch love readings all the time because I'm just like I want to know, not just about love, but it's how it's done and how cards have different meanings for love readings versus this reading versus collective reading. And she has what she calls soul tribe readings, which I really, really resonate with. I think that's what it's probably what I do are really our soul tribe readings where I put way too much of myself out there. And then I'm like, oh, oh, I'm so sorry. And instead of apologizing, I think I should just be like, well, if you're watching this and you stay watching this, it's because it means something to you and it's fine. She doesn't read everything perfectly. And I'm like, oh, she's like, I have problems reading and I have, she identifies as autistic, and I'm like, okay. Well, I'm very much bipolar, very medicated. But, I'm like, okay, so we can have our things and we can put it out there and you can talk about, she sometimes uses personal ideas and her own personal, scenarios. And I'm like, this is who I read like. Now, am I her? Absolutely not. She just flips through. Though she does actually read from the book. And lately I've noticed a trend, which I personally like because it makes me feel better about myself. A lot of people are using different decks. It's not just read or write. And they read what, that particular artist or writer talks about on the tarot. And the oracle, of course. The oracles, sometimes they do not represent what you think they represent. And I'm like, well, I'm going to say that what I said was right, but this is what officially it says. So you'll see me. Several decks over here. Bought several decks. I'm trying to learn love tarot. Is this going to be a love reading? Probably not. I'm not there yet. It might have some love in there. Yeah, because honey, I have a book now. Okay. For those of you who don't know, I'm a poet. So I am all about the books. So, Eight of Cups, the traditional meaning, losing faith, leaving to start anew, letting go of things that were at one time very important. Well, hey, since I opened it to that, perhaps we are there, right? As a collective soul tribe, right? And the romantic reading, pardon me, I've been having coffee and cake. One of the strangest aspects to the human adventure is the idea that one can have the experience of loving so strongly, feeling a devotion so deeply, and in all caps, knowing in your heart of hearts that this is how you will feel forever and nothing will change. And this is caps, you, baby. This is your truth with the capital T, right up until the moment that it's not. Some things are simply not going to last forever. And it is always such a confusing, sometimes shocking realization. So then it just starts talking about, it's about change. And, so I guess with love, it's I have this vision of having the dice in my hands is going, is the one that I want, is it going to work? Is it going to work? And then you have to, I guess, figure it out on your own, really. Cards can tell you, they cards and all sorts of divination can tell you sort of what could happen, what's happening right now that could happen, but things change all the time. So it's interesting. I like seeing what does happen. Do I ever remember to really look? No. But ever so often people will tell me oh, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, oh yeah, I totally remember. I said that would happen to me. Now, like I said, Kim's trying some decks, and I am being called to try upside down, the Twin Flame Ascension Take Me Home Oracle deck. Now, I have not pre-drawn any of these cards, and yes, that terrifies me. Because usually that leads to the 900 hours of, where is it? Am I doing it right? And like trying to find it. I at least did look at the guides this time. Trying to figure this out. Now, this particular tarot deck has the same numbers for 11 different lessons, okay? 11 different lessons. If you do not believe in twin flames, just think of this as like maybe like relationships. It can be friendships. It doesn't have to be anything of that nature. It doesn't have to be even like a lot of people make the differences between soulmates and twin flames and everything else. Pretty sure I'm on a twin flame journey. And like right now, do I sort of want to flip them off? Yes, I do. But are they going through some stuff? Yeah. So do they want to flip me off? Yeah. Life happens, So we're gonna pull some cards because, like, soul tribe reading, right? How much is going on in your life? It doesn't have to be romantic, like I said, but like friends that you've been with forever. I mean, like, there's dynamics that shift. I mean, I'm sure something has shifted. I'm waiting for a card. I don't have like the proper technology. Ah, there's a card. I had to like put it up. And I'm pretty sure this is considered all of. All right. 1010, practice self-love. Nurture your inner child. Now, with the Terra Nova Lyceum, we've been talking about self-care for years now. We give classes not on self-care. That's a form of self-care, taking, classes, going into your mind, like expanding it somehow, right? Right now, I'm filming this, of course, as I said, in August. So the Sea Leaves Challenge just started, and that's really big for poets because this is when we can get our poetry books actually read. The idea is you read a poetry book, chapbook, or collection every day for the entire month. P.S. We don't always read every poem, and I read fiction, I read everything else. I call it the Silly Challenge on crack. It's not the most PC thing to say, but 1010, practice self-love, nurture your inner child. So, what does your inner child want? And as you consider that, what does your inner child want? I am going to do my best to find out where Olive is. Olive. All right, it was Olive 1010, right? Never use these cards. So I'm a little too excited. I'm not I'm gonna stop apologizing. You can be excited too. Apparently that's not Olive. Hmm. Like I said, like there's Amber and there's Aqua. This is not Aqua. Okay, I found it, but let's see what it's actually called. Okay, because like then we'll know for next time when you see this, you can like shout through the screen and be like, yeah, slate. Okay, so this is okay. You have to understand. Okay, I do archaeology. I am not an archaeologist yet. I'm an amateur archaeologist. So when I see this color, I think of bottle glass. All of bottle glass can have this sort of cloudy sheen. Oh, jeez. There aren't really apologies. Okay, so slate. Remember that next time you can yell it at me through the screen. Self-love is a prerequisite for a heart-centered life. If you want the ultimate relationship, it starts with the relationship you have with yourself. I get this all the time. I mean, like every reader that I click on YouTube, every reader in person, it's always about self-love. So I have yet to figure out what does self-love mean. Like really, what is that relationship with self? And I think it's really just putting your needs before others, not in a selfish way, from my understanding, but like I think it's learning that it's not selfish. I think that's like the ultimate journey is to learn like to put on your oxygen mask first and then help others. And I'm working on that. I don't know about how you guys are, I don't know. I think the oxygen mask itself, I would put on somebody else. I give a lot, and I've been receiving a lot. So then I give more, right? All right. Practicing self love impacts your thoughts, feelings, emotions, your choices, your actions, and your relationships. The ability to love yourself is a direct reflection of how you perceive who you are in everyday life. You have experienced feelings of being unloved in many lifetimes that has left your inner child feeling neglected. And it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to believe in past lives. I don't tell anyone what to believe. I read from the book. But let's just like look at our childhood. Do we feel a bit unloved, a little unseen? Do we get all of our needs met? Were we told just to do our homework? We put in front of the TV because adults didn't want to deal with us. It doesn't have to be past lifetimes. That's what I'm saying. If it was, I'm sorry. But that's a different type of apology. When you feel hurt and rejected, it causes you to close off, most likely by taking things personally. Oh, yes, my friend didn't want to talk to me, right? I considered them my twin flame. They didn't want to talk. They don't know they're my twin flame, by the way. And I don't think they even use that information. They wouldn't even know what that was. And I'm like, but you should do this for yourself. You should do this. No response. What were they doing for themselves to make themselves? They weren't talking to me. That was their self care. But it tracks, right? Sometimes we just need to disconnect. No matter how much you love, like whatever person, sometimes we just have to be like by ourselves. And if you're gonna do that for a friend, just say, "Hey, I will be there for you. I know you're having a hard time right now. I know, but I just can't." And like use words the other person is gonna understand. Because what I heard was, I could have used your help, but I chose not to get your help. That was my part. And then, so there's I already came at it at an angle of shade. That's that, what they call it? Taking things personally, right? It's about me. And nothing to do about me. Person needed a day off from me, but it wasn't just him, right? It's not necessarily just us that this person might be taking a day off of, or that we might be taking off with somebody else. It's just like self preservation. It's putting on the oxygen mask first. They just learned how to do it. Maybe we have to too. So if somebody is draining you, it's the last thing, you can just not do it. Tell them. Today I was on my last leg. I actually like was asleep at 7:30 in the morning. I am never asleep. Sorry if that sounds really early for you. But I'm never asleep. I slept through this person's text messages. I didn't feed my friend's cat that I'm supposed to feed. I'm feeding her at like 5 a.m. So she's like, "Hey, hey, hey." And I'm like, no. But I got up and I did my duty. And you know what? It was fine. It worked out fine. I was really resentful at first though. So instead of feeling so resentful, I should have like had more contracts around it, right? I did know that this person might ask me to do something. I was tired. So I could be like, I will drop you off. I'm gonna stay here in the vehicle. Just let me be. Don't worry about me. I'll be fine. Please don't worry. Like that sort of stuff. I basically did that and it did help and raise sort of like my own sort of self. I had lots of stuff to do. When you have a laundry list, how you get, well, same thing. We have to do our laundry list too. Instead of tacking on everyone else's, we have to make sure that we get through what we really want to do. Maybe we don't get through all 5 things. Maybe that can go to the next day. But then we have to get those 3 things though. And don't stay up late to do it. But if you can have two other things that a person needs you to do, sure. Okay. But don't don't make it so that it damages you. Put your oxygen mask on first. I have trying to find where it is. The cupcakes are there. I don't know where I put my cake. Oh, the cake is under the tarot book. Um, so like that was my reward. And then I was like, oh, reward. And that's another way of doing it. Okay. So I don't want you to be like, oh, every time I have to nurture myself, I have to do this thing. You don't. If your inner child, though, is longing to be seen and really like wants to be seen, contacting somebody that is not busy at the time and having them truly listen to your needs and truly listen to what you're saying. And you're like, you can be sobbing on the phone, but if they have the have the phone out, it doesn't help. But if they're like comforting you, empathizing with you, they have their own stuff together enough to be able to like have it not drag themselves down, then it helps. Right now I'm finding, twin flame or not, that collectively our energy is pretty low. It's really hot, first of all. I live currently in Maryland, um, USA. And we are in my area, we're like 102 today, 100, maybe it's above that. And in some places in the US, it's even hotter than that. And of course, I know the world, it's even hotter. Um, I know. Oh God, I know. But I mean, like, that could add to our collective drainedness. Like I said, I do archaeology, right? I'm going to be in the heat next week. It's going to be in the hundreds and I'm going to be hot. But you have preparations. You pre drink, you make sure you have your electrolytes first and during lunch, right? Okay. I've been taught this. And you have a lot of water. Hopefully, you don't have feet. Um, and you either dig or you do whatever, but it exerts a lot of energy. Now you're tired after, but you're not hurting yourself. You're drained, but you aren't sick and you're not hurting, which is the point I'm trying to make. We can have a lot of energy that we're putting out there, but if we prepare ourselves, then it'll help. Okay, so like nourishing yourself, even if it's not all about like the inner child and being seen just like on the physical level, okay, actually thinking of ourselves as a child or having that mask put on us by someone else. If we can't do it ourselves, be accountable buddies. Have you both had your water for that day? Do you have your sunscreen on? Help each other with sunscreen. That used to be the big thing at schools, right? Oh, sorry. Gotta move myself. So it's sort of that nature, right? You don't always have to you don't always have to completely take care of yourself. I know I can't. I depend on a lot of people. I don't even know how many people I depend on. I mean, I have like the entire world. I'm a poet. People read my work. I count on people to read my work. I count on thousands of people to read my work. And at the same time, plan to change their lives by having them read that work. So it's like a mutual sort of thing. You hear something, it's me trying to open up the crystal. It's in a bag. I would like to say I feel called to show you a palm stone that I have never seen before. Like you can actually see like the whole like amethyst where usually I see those crystals and they're not tumbled at all. And I've never seen an amethyst that is done this way where you see the banding and the crystals and had it tumbled, right? I have all sorts of like little geos and everything that do this. But like to be able to hold it in my hand, let me tell you, if you have anxiety, palm stones are for you. Or they have finger ones. Okay. So that's a inner child knowing. All right. The other thing is fidget toys. A lot of my friends do fidget toys, and it is not just for children, but it really helps them connect when they are talking. They can be doing something like this instead of all over the place. They can be directly talking to you. I have a hard time making eye contact. It's just true. Even in the mirror, Zoom. Right now I am videotaping myself, right? And like looking at my eyes in Zoom, I'm like, oh my gosh, those are my eyes. It's just something I don't do. I tend to look down. I'm told that that is something like that's self-effacing and means low self-esteem. And I mean, like, fine, but I attribute it much more to shyness. I look down and I go, in my childhood, it used to be a very big thing. You know, you have Batman and you have the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and you had like this huge wave of like Japanese culture that was like pseudo culture because it was very Americanized. And like in my head, I felt that it was respectful for not just women to look down while talking to everybody because you were being very, spiritual and you're listening and you were showing respect. And in some cultures, it's still true, right? In the United States, it is not. So a lot of like my life, I mean, I've always looked down and it's almost like curtsying. I would curtsy if it was like proper. It's not proper anymore, but I would. So instead, have that palm stone or one of those finger worry worry stones, I guess you could call it, and go, I can look in your eyes. Uh, don't ask me. I just, talk. I think somebody other than me needed to hear that. And this is again, these are all new decks for me. The Rooted Woman Oracle. It's by Sharon Blackie. The artwork is by Hannah Willow. Um, and one of my Facebook friends slash fairy tale friends was telling me that there is a book. I don't know if they're completely related, but it's I guess it's called The Rooted Woman. And she didn't know that there was cards. So there you have it. I did not know that there would be a book. And you don't have to ever take any of these things that I say as gendered. If I say female, if I say male, if I say it usually just is referencing the guide. Personally, I'm she, they. I never really could figure out my actual pronouns. I mean like the actual language. I don't mean the person. So we have 15, the Grail Bearer, spiritual nourishment. So that's very, very similar to what we're talking about. So this inner child is more like, I would say, like a physical being seen and caring for ourselves, both physically and, also making sure we have time to play, right? And to not work. Okay, I work 365, 24/7, and that needs to stop a little bit. And by stop a little bit, I mean like for a day. And I get bored. But like, we have to take breaks. We have to have fun. Well, this is being called the Grail Bearer, spiritual nourishment. So it does almost look like she is like carrying soup, right? I hope I'm not the only person that I'm sure it's supposed to be a light. I'm sure it's supposed to be similar to like the Holy Grail, like something that is very wise, very everything. And I am really, really, really picking up that it's like spiritual soup. I am really sorry if that is sacrilegious for anybody, but I am. I am seeing this wise woman, this wise grandmother, this wise whatever, carrying to the inner child some, I like potato soup without meat. Potato soup. I really have to actually look up what it is, and I will probably be appalled. It's like even in the window, it looks like it's a very religious, spiritual like window from like, like monasteries and like that sort of thing. All right. See what it's got to say. The Grail Bearer. Although the medieval Grail legends are usually presented as centered around the heroic quest women are central to Grail mythology. They're bearers of the Grail, right? And its messengers. So they are the helpers and they're the holders, right? Like all the cups and cauldrons in the Celtic texts and stories, what's contained in the Grail and offered by Grail bearers is the creative, generative essence of the otherworld, which animates the land. And so the quest for the Grail, the giver and sustainer of life, is a quest to respect and restore the anima mundi, the soul of the world. The Grail Bearer cards remind us that all life is sacred and that all life is a precious gift. We didn't come to this world to be alone, but to be part of a community of humans and other than humans, fully entangled in the web of life on this beautiful, animate earth. All of this life that we're a part of wants to be in a relationship with us. If only we can learn how to listen and to see, we can come to understand that every bird wants to sing to us and every flower open for us. The Grail Bearer encourages us to understand that we're part of an animate world, to feel a sacred heartbeat of life all around us, which nourishes and supports us, if only we choose to let it in. Okay, and she probably is holding a light of some sort or a holy relic. Okay, but that nourishment, that soup, that idea that everything is for us. Now, some would say that's a very, very awful Western concept. And in some ways, I can see where it could be. This is sort of how poets look, and I can speak to that. I am both the archetype of poet and the actual poet. So we look at the very small, the very mundane, and it becomes spiritual. So this woman's light, I see soup. So I see everything that soup does for you. And I actually don't eat that much soup. I don't really like soup. But like you do. You gotta do what you gotta do. So, it has warmth, usually. It has some type of consistency. It usually, if you like it, it makes you feel better in some capacity. A lot of people use chicken noodle soup to, I don't know if it really helps. A lot of people say it really does help. And sometimes I think it's, if you think it helps, it helps, with colds and flu and such. I know that I've given my fair share of soup to people over long distances. I'll call it into like Panera and be like, "Hey, can you have it delivered?" Ridiculous. It was ridiculous. It was delivered 3 times, one time accidentally. And believe me, I was the talk of the family. Hopefully, they spoke nicely of me as they had their soup for 3 weeks. But it is like also, she's bringing it, right? You give it, so that's connection. So not only does it fill us, it also like nourishes us, right? It goes to our cells, our body. It can make us feel better. There's also a personal aspect. It's the same thing. Like if there's an illness, death in the family, whatever. Usually, at least close people, right? They're close. They bring meals. That was a huge thing anyway. I assume it still is. You bring meals. Here is lasagna. Here is, a meatloaf. Here is whatever you need. Somebody brings cookies, and the whole community sort of gets around this person that is, feeling poorly for some reason, right? Then it's that poorly person, right? Or deceased, and the family. And then it just keeps expanding. You know, that's sort of like just like ripples of love. Like it's okay, this is a poetic image. It's like the ripples of soup love, right? If you ever have ripples on your soup and you've listened to this, you're never going to see your soup the same way. All those little waves are love. I know. I'm sorry. I'm just like, yeah, this is getting to be very Kim. Very Kim. Very, very Kim. Okay. Let's see. What? I'm looking for the top of this. This is Symbolon. And it's a deck of remembrance, but it looks very, very like almost like a traditional tarot set. I mean, I haven't gone through it. It's not quite Rider Waite, but it is sort of very much of that essence and that feel. I mean, I can't call this a gilded back, but it is a golden back. And oh, it's this one, whatever this one is. Okay, so we're getting a lot of what I call religious imagery. So to me, that looks like a shepherd. So we just had, a woman bearing a grail and a shepherd. Those very much look almost like coins, although that looks like a sickle. I have no idea. Should I know? Maybe. Do I even know how to do this? No. Should have looked. Should have looked. Should have known what Venus was. They're also by um, astrology. Oh my. Okay, we can look at interpretation of the cards because I don't think that they actually like say they're interpreting the cards. This looks like a shepherd, so I'm going to look for something called shepherd. Not really mediator. I don't think the ego. I love it. There's a partner and a seducer, just so you know, a jester, an angel. There has to be a shepherd, right? Preacher? This is one where I am not going to apologize. It is time to laugh. Oh my god, I am the spiteful troublemaker. I just went I just went past that. I was like, that's me. That's what I'm doing. Okay. I'm actually gonna say that this is not. Oh, they do have numbers. Doesn't help though. It doesn't help you look them up. That's funny. Okay, I was gonna say that this is a preacher, and I can see that. Okay, so I'm gonna read since I was gonna say it because I mean, since there's it can be a synchronicity. Okay, it doesn't necessarily have to be. So it's signature is Sagittarius and Jupiter. The priest, the missionary, the inner therapist, belief, insight, philosophical view of the world. All right, and then since this would be considered a single card, it's where is your sympathy, the memory of your own spiritual past. You presume to impose your opinions and knowledge upon others while your soul remains infertile. And I don't really think that's the case. I really don't think that's the case. I think the question is, where is our empathy? And I think the sympathy needs to be towards us. Like when it says you presumes your own opinions and knowledge upon others, while your soul remains infertile. Well, like, yes, we're being asked to go within to work on our soul. Like I said, I would like a 12-step program about how to actually do that, right? Do shadow work. What does that really mean? I found some journals that have helped me. Hey, ask questions. The ones that I like ask questions and don't preach. And those I can do more shadow work for. Where do you think you are in 10 years? Or are you in 5? Are you just satisfied right now? Why? What's one way you can change it today? What about in 5 years? What are you going to need? And like all these little questions that lead up and lead up and lead up. And over a course of several months, I've answered enough of them. And they do sort of like present themselves and lead elsewhere. Now, I think this might be responsibility for creation. Now, I don't know my symbols. I don't. I'm learning everything just like everyone is at all times. You don't know anything if you think that you know everything. We're always constantly learning. Now, with the card responsibility for creation, I'm going to take this down because who knows? I accidentally stopped myself. So, what I was just saying, just in case it doesn't return, is that I'm going to put this down because I don't know if that is the true card or not. But I think this will be the meaning that is more apt. Now it says the signature is Taurus, Capricorn, Venus, Saturn. It doesn't have to be. I don't know these things. My astrology I listen to, but I do not know. I am learning. Okay. And we can all say that. We're all learning. So no need to apologize. Just go look it up. Theme summary. Responsibility for the world, creator and nature, care and intention. I don't know that word, but I will spell it for you. USUFRUCT. Looking after the dependent and the weak. Yeah, so that's much more that shepherd energy, I think. So again, this would be considered a single card since I just pulled it out. They have it if it's like in a spread, if it's end of the set, beginning of the spread. If it's as a card as a series, and I think I'm going to read both as this since this is technically part of a series, even though it's not of just all this deck. So first, if you just take it as a single card, just pulled it, the problem. There is a creature in your immediate environment, an animal, a plant, or even someone in need, which is weak and somehow dependent on you. You are careless. You don't realize this life form will wither and die unless it receives attention. The task ahead of you is to care for it, look after it. Okay, so that creature is us. You might have kids, they don't count. You might have a spouse, they don't count. You might not have a spouse. You might have a situationship or whatever ship. They don't count. Okay? Us. This whole message has been about us. I feel like we are still about us. Like, and that's a soul tribe reading, right? As it is. So if I feel it, if you're still listening, you got it, babies. Okay, so the other way of reading this, or one of them, is the way through the problem. You are being asked to intervene on behalf of someone else, the world, or the environment. Your journey involves learning to accept responsibility for the weak. That is life forms that depend on you, is what they have in parentheses. But that might be true, but I still think it's about us. And it says that could be an animal, plant, or human being. Okay, take it. If you can take it as it resonates, but I think this is like the key. Your journey will never end unless you care for them and relieve their burden. I don't think that's about children. I don't think that that is about a spouse. No, no offense, but that spouse can get up and leave whether we help them, heal them, or not. If we can't get up and leave ourselves and not, and not heal ourselves, right? The not healing ourselves version is who gets up and leaves ourselves, right? The one who does not take care of themselves, the one that, you know, I don't like using health stuff because I'm very bad with it. I don't take my blood pressure. I don't take my blood pressure medication. And I have disordered eating. So I have a hard time with talking about food and using them as examples. So I'm trying to find a good example. Your journey will never end unless you care for them and relieve their burden. So if we're saying that there is us, our burdens will never be fulfilled, will never have any chance of happiness. I was told once that happiness is not real. This is by a psychiatrist. But that it's moments of happiness, and then we have sort of like other things that go on during them. So we have blips of bliss or happiness, And then we have just sort of like normal. You can have dips. So I I like the idea that we can have more ups than downs, but that life does do that. So if like we're having a down, like I feel like we all are, we need to find a way to nourish ourselves, get us back up, put that oxygen mask on, right? I don't know. I think I have one more deck and then I will have used all my decks that I currently have right here. I'm looking into living elsewhere, at least part-time. So I might actually not be. It sounds like it's awful when I say bumming off of people because they have freely offered and they're very kind to me. I have been living fairly homeless for about 5 or 6 months, because my home is like physically toxic. Like they put stuff in the environment and the air, and the chemicals did bad things. All right, this will be our last one, out of the box. Now, I don't know what it's going to say the official meaning is, okay? But to me, out of the box, it's always like think outside of the box is what we're told, right? We have to get out of the box. I think we've like caged ourselves within a box and we can only do a certain thing a certain way. And like, believe me, having the same thing every day sometimes comforts me, or knowing what'll happen that day, having my list. I was actually talking about this like on Facebook today. Having a list like helps me, but maybe we're like putting ourselves into a box instead of letting ourselves be expansive. Maybe we have to nourish that, inner child with knowledge, with new activities, with new soup, different flavor, new people. I think that is apt. I think we could tell ourselves that. I think we could definitely say, spice up life a little bit. That twin flame thing. Wait until somebody, life calms down, or help it calm down in some small way, that will be resonant and will mean something to the person. And then just everybody just breathe, right? All right. This is I don't even know if I put this. If I do not, this is the resonance oracle cards. Being different is beautiful. We all have our own way of doing things, and this should be celebrated. When you enjoy life and the way you live it, things always seem to go more smoothly because it's being true to who you are. Relish the fact that you have your own unique gifts. Our individuality adds color to life. The answers to your questions are tailored to you because they are your questions. The answer to the situation at hand is a creative one. Perhaps it is you. You are the creative answer to any question you have. Now, they do have alternate meanings. I haven't looked at this yet. Love yourself and all your beautiful facets. It's something that we can all aim to do. I know it's terribly difficult. Your creativity is the key. Be true to yourself and all will work out, and free yourself. So, even if it's just for a day, do something just for you. Even if it's just for a few minutes, do something just for you. Nurture that inner child. Do some Dungeons and Dragons. Do some, actually, like all of my, like the people that do Dungeons and Dragons that I know, and also a lot of the computer games, video games, whatever you want to call them. It's funny because they are, my age or older. And yeah, never give up what brings you joy. And maybe that's a message for somebody. If you've been told to give up something, don't let it give you joy. If so, don't give it up. It's sort of like I was told not to get cake and coffee. And some days, some years I would have said yes, I won't. And I decided I'm doing it even if I have to give up money from somewhere else. Right now, Kim needs her cake and coffee. And I'm not gonna worry too much about it. Maybe slightly less quantity. I'm not going to worry about it. So, on that note, cheers, lots of coffee to you all. Or, I mean, like, if you partake in wine, there's always that. Be well, guys. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. And go out there, explore. I was gonna say read some poetry. Read some poetry, some of my poetry. Um, and I would say read some leaves. Go out there and look at some leaf and look at it through the eyes of a child. Take care. Be well. Have a great week.